I think God just told me to start a meat company. Had no agricultural experience.
How do you break into an industry that you don't really, it's such a new terrain for you?
I think too many times we get hung up on the, how am I going to do this?
Yeah,
how
where
am I
everything's
gonna
got
do
to be
this?
laid out perfectly before I take that first step or something.
Life is wild. Faith, marriage, parenting, work, all of it. One minute you're inspired, the next you're in chaos. That's why I started No Longer Nomads, the podcast that throws you into the deep end of real stories and authentic truth. We're talking ex-witches who found freedom, former Muslims who met Jesus, mountaineers who even survived the wilderness for 6 days, and much, much more. No Longer Nomads, because no one was meant to wander alone. New episodes drop every Tuesday at 5 a.m. What's up, everyone? In this episode, we sit down with Ben Spell, the founder and CEO of Good Ranchers. I'm sure you've heard about them by now. They're all over on so many amazing podcasts, and we stand by what they believe in. And after this conversation, I think you guys will too. They're awesome enough to give us a code for our little nomad community. Use code NOMADS for 25% off your first box when you subscribe. I highly recommend it. I was like most people, skeptical of like doing a meat subscription. And it's incredible. I mean, the meat is just a cut above. So they deliver 100% American meat, and it's straight to your door, and it supports U.S. ranchers. And I'm telling you guys, it's fantastic. So they were cool enough to give us a code, $25 off. I highly recommend it. And I'm excited for you guys to listen to this episode. Make sure to pass it along. If you want to, pass it along. That helps grow the show. Snag a shirt from our store, join our newsletter on the website, and you can find the link for this code, and you can find the link for our website, all of that in the show notes. Let's get to the episode. Man, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Excited to do this.
Yeah.
We got an email, and just like, hey, Good Ranchers folks said it would be fun to come on the show if you would be open for it. And I was like, oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. So we were fired up, and here we are in your incredible studio and incredible office. And so, man, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me on the show. But even more importantly, thanks for coming down and coming to us. That was amazing.
Absolutely. Well, man, I'm excited to hear your story. We'll talk about your wife a bit too, her cancer journey, and we'll get into it. So how did you get into Good Ranchers, and what's kind of the backstory there?
Yeah, so that's the question everybody always leads off with, and I always chuckle inside when I have to answer it because I was the least of the likelies to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
I had no agricultural experience, no meat knowledge, no industry experience, and this was it never, and had no like aspirations to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. I was actually full-time ministry and a musician since I was 19.
Nice.
to my early to mid 30s.
Okay.
God called me to, and it's funny, it's because I didn't really plan to do that either.
Okay.
Sometimes I make the joke of I didn't plan to do anything, but God's plan. Because I moved to Houston right after high school on a whim.
Okay.
I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a friend of mine was a few years older than me, and he said, "Hey, I'm moving to Houston. My job's transferring there for about 6 months.
Okay.
Need somebody to help pay rent. You want to go?" And I said, "Sure." And I thought I'd do that for 6 months, and then I'd come back home.
Yeah.
But we both got plugged in at the same little local church here. That while we were here, and I just kind of fell in love with it and the city itself.
Yeah.
After about 6 months, he went back home, and I stayed, and I've been here 26 years now. And I was working at the time and going to school. Then the pastor of the church that I was at volunteered heavily, and he's like, "Hey, can we just pay you to work full time for us?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Sure." So
Sounds good.
Yeah, I was working for an insurance company doing like claims
Okay.
and stuff. And I was like, okay. And then, and so then that led and that grew. And then I was there at that church for about 5 years. And then one of the largest churches here in the city, started contracting me to do, to like produce their Christmas services, their Easter services, like their big productions and stuff. And so kind of started doing that. And then the same thing, they asked me if I would run their studio, because I went to school for audio engineering.
Oh, nice.
Nothing to do with meat. And so I started working, running their studio. And then I started leading the band. Then I started running all of the production, all of the technical,
and all of it
stuff,
all different angles.
Yeah. I became the technical director, and then I was the band leader, technical director, and then eventually was the full worship pastor over all the arts, over all the technology. And
big church, right? Like
yeah. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah,
they say. But yeah, 10,000 seat auditorium.
Dang.
Yeah, like it's.
Do you ever get nervous getting in front of them?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
I don't get nervous. I wouldn't get nervous singing, but I would definitely get nervous like having to speak.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah. So I played music growing up, guitar. Played little shows in middle school, high school. If you asked me back then what I would be doing, I'd say, oh, I'll probably be on various bands and all that. I'll probably be on a tour bus playing music. I just, I loved it so much. But same thing, I'd get on stage sometimes and it's like, you feel comfortable behind the guitar, but there are a few shows where it's like, you just feel super nervous to even get out there. And
oh yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
But I absolutely loved it. And so I'll fast forward around 2012, 2013. And at this point I was the head guy there. It was a great job. I absolutely loved it. And I walked out to my car one day, and I had a pretty nice car. And there was an older gentleman getting into his car next to mine, and it was just a beater of a car. And he said, "Hey, great worship today, Pastor. Really appreciate all you do. And like keep it up." Just like a word of encouragement. And I looked at my car and I looked at his, and I went, it just. I want to be very clear. There's nothing wrong with taking a salary from a church. It's a real job.
Yeah, for sure.
But we all have our own personal convictions that the way the Lord leads us. And he just put something in my heart at that moment. That was a pivotal moment for me. And I just started thinking, what if I could not take a salary from the church? Like that's I guess that's where the entrepreneurial.
Sure. I
didn't think of it like that at the time, but I just started thinking, what could I do to not have to take a salary from the church? Because again, personal conviction.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that people that could afford less than me were paying my salary. And I'm going to beat a dead horse here. Personal conviction.
Yeah.
Not
I
saying
got you.
it's
Yeah,
wrong.
that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and as I look back, that was God. That was God's way of leading me to His purpose.
Yep.
And so started, praying on that and seeking and knocking, seeking, asking, and it was a few years later, but my wife and I, Corley, who you met just recently, we were watching a lot of Shark Tank at this time.
Nice.
And this was about
great show. 2016,
and started having this idea of a meat company, which made no sense because when I tell you, I had never even cooked a steak in my life. I wasn't like this avid griller, like this connoisseur of meat.
Good meats.
Yeah. I wasn't. And I didn't grow up eating steak or, I literally thought like what I thought was steak was like a hamburger steak, which is good.
Yes.
Especially at Luby's.
Oh yeah. There we go.
But I remember the first time I told Corley, I said, if I feel like somebody should do this, and this.
Okay.
And in no shape, form, or fashion did I think that was going to be me.
So did you see kind of like a hole in the market, or do you see maybe an opportunity, or?
Yeah. So I had a brief stint in 2015 where I actually took a little bit of a sabbatical from from ministry.
Okay.
Just to, from the church I was working at. And just to kind of, because again, several years prior, I started feeling like maybe I'm supposed to do something else.
Yeah.
So I took that sabbatical and just really trying to seek, okay, God, what do you have for me? Where do you want me? And in that time, I did some sales for a meat company.
Okay.
And it was about 3 months, and I hated it. Like, I did not like it at all. I was good at it.
Didn't like it. And, but I, in that 3 months, I very much realized how misleading marketing for meat, especially in the US, is, how there's, the lack of transparency. There's no country of origin labeling law for beef or for pork in the US. It can be born, raised, and slaughtered anywhere in the world, get put on a barge, sent over here, and get sold in our grocery stores under Product of USA label. Yeah. And the law just changed this year in January, but up until literally January of this year, they could even put an American flag sticker on it and say Product of USA. So those were those were the things that I knew, so started having those conversations, literally thinking someone else should do it. Yeah. And about a year went by of every 3 or 4 months, I would just have these ideas, and I would say to my wife, "Man, somebody should do this. Yeah. Somebody should fix this." And one morning, it was. Now we're in like 2017 at this time. And we had just had our first baby boy. Okay.
He was probably 6-8 weeks old at the time. And I was getting ready. I was back working full-time at the church again. And it was a Sunday morning. I was getting ready for service. And had the idea of this meat company come back into my head.
Yeah.
And I heard the voice of the Lord so clearly. He said, "You do it." And I went, cause I was just thinking, showering, like not, really not, you know how it is. Like you're just kind of going through life and, doing your thing.
What was that?
It wasn't a hum. It was, you do it. It wasn't like the skies opened up and I heard a voice from heaven.
Yeah.
But it was in my head or in my heart or in my soul. I don't know, but it was, you do it. I came out of the bathroom. Corley was holding our little baby, and what I said to her, I think God just told me to start a meat company, and I was expecting her to say, "But we don't have any experience. Yeah. We don't have any money. We don't have any, like, how are we going to do it?" And ask a bunch of questions. But she looked back at me, and she said, "If you heard God, then I trust you." And that was the most empowering words I'd ever heard in my life.
Wind in your sails, man. Wife.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. If
That's
you find
so
a
cool.
good wife, you find a good thing.
Yeah. Amen.
So that was toward the end of 2017. I resigned my position at the church, and at the end of the year, I worked through, Christmas services and stuff. And I remember even having the conversation with my pastor, and he like implored me not to. He was and very well meaning, but he's like, "Man, you're so talented, you're so gifted. God has, like called you to do this." And I was like, "Well,
I kind of want to do this." I feel like
I know that God told me to do this. So, and then just a few months later, I found myself selling meat out of the back of a truck in a parking lot in Waco, Texas.
So how did that go? So did you start, like, how did the name, I guess even Good Rent, that's crazy. How did the name come about, and some of the, how do you break into an industry that you don't really, it's such a new terrain for you?
Yeah. All great questions. And the simple answer is, Proverbs 16:3, I believe, says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and He will establish your plan or your path."
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that then. I realize that now. But honestly, God has just gone before us and prepared the way.
So cool.
And I think too many times we get hung up on the, how am I going to do this?
Yeah,
how
where
am I
everything's got to be
this?
laid out perfectly before I take that first step or something.
But we commit our work to the Lord, and He will establish our path.
Love that.
And so, we heard the call and didn't have it all, didn't have a perfect plan, but just started doing it, and saw success with that first sale there in Waco, and it went from 1 truck to 2 trucks to 3 to 5 to 10 by 2020. That was in 2018. So by 2020, we had about 20 trucks going around the country, doing pop-up shops. And COVID happened naturally.
Yep.
And by that time we had already, we really, we were seeing good success, and we were planning to get online. That was always kind of the plan later. Okay. It's really hard to ship meat online. It's really hard to ship meat online well. I talk to people in the e-commerce world and that sell perishable items, whether it's meat or ice cream, which that's imagine
it'd be super hard.
Yeah. We all have the same sentiment. If we would have known how hard it is before we started, we would have never done it. But yeah, we
So 2020 hit.
2020 hit.
How many employees did you have at this point? Were you growing?
Yeah, we were growing, but again, it was truck sales. It wasn't online.
Okay.
And but we realized we needed to get online, so we started, fast tracking what we needed to do for that. Which, and so by 2021, we were selling online, not nearly how we are today. And like I said, it was really hard. But we were selling online, and we had the trucks.
Was it tough to build trust with people online? Because I know there's so much now. It's harder to break through on, most social media platforms and things like that. But like, was it hard for you guys?
For sure, and especially this really is a brand new concept.
Yeah.
Even though people have been, there's one company that's been selling meat for like 100 years. Yeah. Through not online, but delivering. Mail order, and then obviously when the internet came online, but that's more of like gifting, specialty, kind of big around the holidays, corporate gifting and stuff like that. But the concept of like just having your meat delivered to you that you're going to eat every day is a pretty new concept, really, in the last 5 years. And so, and that's all thanks to COVID. COVID really fast forwarded all of e-commerce by about 10 years, like just sped up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense in your industry as well. Was that tough for you guys in 2020 when it hit? Like, did you shut down? What were you doing with those 20?
No, because we were doing, outside pop-up shops. So we never had to shut down. We had, got a lot more stringent, but it was actually, and I say this with all humility, it's actually really good for us. Yeah. And I know a lot of businesses hurt during that time. But for us, because meat is a commodity and people needed it. And there was a season where the grocery stores were out of meat. There was a season where the restaurants were shut down.
Yeah, I remember that was crazy.
Yeah. So it was actually, business wise, it was very good for us.
Yeah.
And it was actually our most profitable year ever, 2020, with the trucks. And we took all of that profit and invested it in getting online.
Okay.
And so we go into 2021, we still had the trucks, we still had, and we were trying to sell online. And I mean, it was the difference between what we were selling out of the trucks and what we were selling online was like huge, vast. I mean, 99% of our revenue was coming from the trucks, maybe 1 or 2% from online. But again, around July of 2021, I didn't hear any audible voice from the Lord here, but I just really felt, and I'll go back to Proverbs 16:3, commit your work to the Lord and He'll establish your plan. I really felt like we need to shut the trucks down and go fully online.
Wow.
And which was
that's a huge jump too.
Huge decision to make, because the trucks were profitable. Online was just burning money. And, but I believed that actually the scripture that came to mind, which is really nothing to do with this, but is no man can serve two masters.
Mm-hmm.
And that is out of context. So, I know what that scripture is talking about. But I just kept thinking, we need to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
And so we made the plan to shut down all the trucks by the end of the year and go fully online in 2022. And in 2022, so we did. And by the end of 21, the online portion was about a third of what we did out of the trucks, which again was good.
Yeah.
But then the next year was that year in 2022, we grew like 400%. And then the next year we grew like 150%. And then the next year, and then that was 22, 23. So then 24, we grew right at 45%. And then last year, 25, we grew another 40%. So
how do you think so much was that from word of mouth? Obviously a lot of your online presence, but was it people trying your products and like telling other people, like referring to you? I mean, that's a huge jump, 400%.
Yeah. Well, I always think of Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Great movie. One of my favorites.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry.
My wife and I dressed up as Jenny and Forrest a couple of years for Halloween.
Okay.
A couple of years ago. And if there's any movie on, she'll watch Forrest Gump from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite movies I was a young teenager when it came out. And first, I don't know why, as I look back at it now, I was like, this should not have been my favorite movie, but it really was.
It is a good one.
It was a good one. Anyway, I said that to say, we had no plan.
Yeah.
We've just following the Lord, and this was our plan. We're for online. We're going to only sell what we would feed our family, and we would be proud to serve to our friends. That was our business plan. And I do believe that that's part of the reason that we've grown, because it's the easy thing to do is it's not about getting people to buy one time.
Yeah.
It's about how do you get them to buy and keep buying. And the secret to our success has been, it really is better. Yeah, it's just the product.
I mean, when we got a box, you guys sent us a box, which was super generous. My wife and I were fired up about that. My little guy, kids love the nuggets. And I'm sure you hear this all the time, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And part of it is it's like, we get stuff from the store and there's videos coming out. It might've been you guys or someone else, but they bleached all sorts of meats and all that. And it's just like, you never know what you're getting, but when we had your food, it really is. The meat is like, you can tell it's super fresh, cut above. It's incredible.
Yeah. And we take great pride, and we've only we continue to increase our standards versus a lot of businesses as they grow start going,
I was
how
curious
can we
about that.
monetize more? How can we make more money? We've continued to reinvest everything back into better sourcing, better quality, better packaging, and I think that's actually I know that's the secret sauce, is because there is a barrier to entry of getting people to buy meat online. But when people get it, taste and see. When they get it and they go, oh wow,
there's
I mean, we have thousands and thousands of reviews of people saying things like, my husband would never eat chicken, but now he loves chicken. Like, my kid is the most picky eater and would never eat, this or this, but they love it.
Man, my wife, she's got meat scares. Like if we go to a restaurant, does that look done to you? And then she'll think about it all night long. Was that meat bad? It's like, honey, it's fine. But with your stuff, like she was pumped, she's like, tonight, let's do this and that. And the way you guys do it to it's sealed, you can put it in defrost and all that. You can sit in the freezer for a year. It's like, you guys have got it going.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's the other thing too, because a lot of people think like fresh is better.
Yeah.
But with, we sell seafood as well. And I always make this point. You really don't want, there's no such thing as fresh seafood. I mean, because it's spoiling
right when it comes out of the water.
As soon as it gets killed, it begins to go bad and it begins to spoil. And that's why people that, like fish particularly, they're like, that smell fishy to you, like it's because it's rotting. So like with our seafood, for example, most of it is frozen as soon as it's caught, like even on the boat, which locks in that freshness. And so there's this big misnomer around meat of, if it's frozen, it's bad. And actually with red meat, freezing it actually helps break down the muscle fibers a little bit, because when they freeze and then when it thaws, it's actually a little bit more tender.
Interesting.
And so, we age all of our beef, which is another thing the grocery store doesn't do. They're about like getting it in, getting it out.
Okay.
So we take the extra steps to age all of our beef a minimum of 21 days. Most of it's about 28 days.
Okay.
And that makes a big difference as well. But then also, how we're sourcing, how the animals were are treated, how they're raised, what they're eating, what they're not eating. All of those things matter. It's again, I knew nothing about this going into it.
And now, that's incredible. I'd love to get to some of that in a minute, some of the sourcing, transparency, all that stuff, because I think it's super fascinating. I'd love to also, let's fast forward a little bit and go to 2024.
Yeah.
It was, I'd seen a past interview that you guys did, and there's, no kids at this point. Is that right? You guys were done? Or, no, you have kids, but no like pregnancies at this point.
Yeah. That was the other thing that, God in his infinite wisdom and crazy sense of humor, not only did we start a business in 2018, again, we just had our oldest bear at the end of 2017. But then we had our second boy, Wilder, in 2019.
Nice.
We had our third child, which was a little girl, Scout, in 2020.
Okay.
And then we had our fourth girl in 2022, in February of 2022. Okay. So not only were we trying to figure out how to run a business, we were trying to figure out how to
parent and young kids.
We going into 2024, we at the end of 2023, I remember Corley and I kind of laughing with each other, like, man, this is going to be easy, because for the first time, like for the first year going into the business, we don't have a newborn or you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And then again, the Lord laughs at our plans sometimes. Yeah. And in January of 24, got to back up a little bit. During the pregnancy with Daisy, our youngest in 22, was in 21. Corley was diagnosed with, they found a melanoma on her leg. And so we didn't really think much of it. And they biopsied it, and they was like, yeah, it's melanoma. We need to remove it. We need to do a surgery. But we had just found out she was pregnant. And so they couldn't do anything with her being pregnant at that time, early in the pregnancy. Doctors mean well, but they, their advice to us was terminate the baby so you could have this surgery. Obviously that wasn't.
And how far was she?
8 weeks, maybe.
8 weeks.
Yeah. Like we had just found out.
Dude, could you imagine life without her? I mean, that's crazy.
Oh my gosh, no. That was not even a question for us. And, so they're like, okay, well, we can, if you wait, it's not that, we wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. So the irony here is, you can terminate the baby, but we're not going to do the surgery because it could hurt the baby. It's weird. But we chose to wait till I think the third trimester to do the surgery, because then they said it was safer there. Yeah. To not harm the pregnancy. And, but they definitely said, the longer you wait, the more risk that you have of it spreading.
Okay.
And that was again, wasn't even a question. for Corley or for me. So she has the surgery, and they traced it back, and it had spread to one of her lymph nodes. They removed that lymph node, and it was just microscopic, that little bit that they found. And so, I'm sorry, that was after they did that after she gave birth.
Okay.
In February of 22. And so they said, it was such a small little speck that they found in the lymph node that they traced it to, that we should just wait and see.
Okay.
And so, we just went on with life.
Yeah.
And not thinking about it. And in 24, in January of 24, she felt a lymph node that was swelling, and it was like right in her pelvic area.
Okay.
And so we went in and they biopsied it, and they were like, yeah, that's melanoma. So, and that one, again, the first time didn't really rock our world. This time it really did. And so, we walked through the first 6 months of 24, what Corley calls her healing journey.
Yeah.
And she did a holistic treatment. We were at MD Anderson, and then also, and she also really changed her diet. She went hard, like keto.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly meat.
There we go.
But
so the first 6 months, you said it shocked you guys. I mean, was it?
Well, so we really prayed about what to do, and we did a few rounds of holistic therapy and treatments, and the doctors at MD Anderson said that she needed to do immunotherapy, and we felt like, yeah, that's what we need to do. Yeah. So she started that in mid-March. Okay. She started immunotherapy, and then it was they would do a treatment every 4 weeks. They would do the treatment. You would wait about 4 weeks, and they would do it again. And then she just got really sick, after that first round of immunotherapy, and about 2 weeks into it, and then by the fourth week, after that first month, going back to do the second round, she was really, really sick, and the tumor in that area was still just growing more and more and more and advancing. So, we do the second round, and because we went in to consult with them, and they said, listen, this is good. This is actually good news that you're having fever, that you're the sickness is your body like fighting this, and so like you need to push through, do it again. Push through. We did it again, and they told us that with immunotherapy, and that they see about an 80% success rate, and about 20% failure rate, which is
20%'s a lot. Yeah. But 80%, that's good. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so after that second round, she just, really took a dive, and about midway through there, we're in April, probably mid-April. She's completely bedridden. She couldn't get out of bed. Like she was like kind of wasting away.
At this point, how were you doing as like trying to lead a company, also then carrying the weight of, your wife being sick with young kids, 4 kids? Man, what was the state of the house? How were you carrying that weight and burden and all that?
Her mom came to live with us during that time to help, which was massively helpful. Yeah. I actually took I stepped away from the business completely during that time, because family's always first, and we preach that here. Yeah. And so, it was hard. It was the hardest thing we ever had to walk through, because the older ones were kind of okay, but none of them really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But like Daisy, our baby, which at that time would have been, not even, or 2, just turning 2, and when mommy tucks you in every single night, and now,
every little step when they're that age is hard,
and so, trying to put her to bed, and she's just crying, I want mommy. And I'm like,
That's so hard, man.
You look what you did to me. Come on. This is a good story though, because
it's a great story. Yeah.
I have to remind myself this is a good story. She's healthy. You just saw her. She's whole.
Yeah.
But
man, take your time.
It's such a good story.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story.
But when we went, so after that second round, okay, I'm gonna get it together. Pull it together.
You're good, man. You're good.
Men aren't supposed to cry.
Dude, I do all the time. I cry at commercials. My wife will be watching a show. I'm crying. My wife's looking over. Are you crying? I'm like, I watched the show. I'm not crying.
Yeah, way more emotional now that I have kids.
Yeah, man, totally. So I'll jump in real quick and tell you. You know this. My pops, he had stage 4 cancer, and we were told he had a year or less to live. And someone you talk to multiple times a day. We're in ministry together. Best friend, hero, all that stuff. All of a sudden, you just go, man, he may not be here to see my kid's next birthday.
Yeah,
and just the emotion that hit our family. We're all super tight, super close. And just like your wife, to see my dad healthy and whole, it's like, man, praise the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And those moments, so you look back and you just go, that's what makes life special, is the people that you love and you're surrounded by.
Yeah.
And when there is sickness, you go, man, we see shows, we watch TV, cancer is not supposed to affect our family. And that sounds arrogant. I don't mean like that, but it doesn't mean like,
it's never going to happen to me.
Yeah. It's like, it's not going to happen to us. And when it did, it just rocked us. I remember coming home one day and I just found out he's got stage 4. He has a year left to live, one doctor said. And I come home and I see a guy that looks like my dad 10 years prior. And I'm like, holy cow, that looks like my dad from the back. And I thought, you know what? He may not be here soon. And just that thought of and I'd hear my mom, who lost her dad early, always saying, oh, that looks like my dad, And it hit me and I'm like, that's going to happen to me. That's going to happen to me. But anyways, fast forward, it's kind of same thing. MD Anderson, there's a lot of synergy there. He was down here. He did chemo, he did immunotherapy. He did not do radiation. I messed that up on one podcast. They're like, you said radiation. He didn't do radiation. Anyways, he did kind of the same approach that your wife took, and man, saved his life. And so anyways, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, she, by the end of that second round of immunotherapy, toward the end of the end of April, it's time to go in and do like the scans, because they wanted to do all the therapy and then do the surgery to remove it. And so, again, she's in a wheelchair. Like she can't walk. She was barely eating. And so we go in expecting
good news.
Expecting good news.
Okay, because the body's fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. And how did the cancer respond to the treatment? And and so they did the scans, and they came in and they said, which why they said this, I don't know, but their words were, your cancer laughed at our treatment. It's spreading. It's on the scan, everything was lighting up, and it's now where it wasn't that one, that wasn't just that one area. Now it's like it's spreading both ways, like, and they said it's actually it's too big, and because when we first, it was probably the size of a marble in January. By this time, end of April, it was probably the size of a grapefruit. Dang. It was, like I said, this whole area was just inflamed and large. You could see it was protruding.
Oh man.
And they said, we threw everything that, that we knew to have at it. It's laughed at it, at what we've done. We can't even do surgery right now. It would be too dangerous to do surgery with how inflamed it is, with how big it is. Like, we've got to do something to try to shrink it. So they prescribed her this chemotherapy. It was a pills of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And they said listen, the reason we didn't give you this earlier is because we know it's not curative.
Wow.
But we do see good temporary results with it, and we need to do something to shrink it before we can, to help the surgery go better.
Yeah.
Like, and if we can temporarily shrink it down some,
okay,
that'll help the surgery. And so, we leave the doctor's office, we go down to the pharmacy there at MD Anderson, and we're standing in line, and we get the chemotherapy drugs and look at the back, and the number one side effect of this particular pill, talk about not curative, the number one side effect listed on the box was could cause more cancer.
Oh gosh.
And so she was so sick, we actually didn't go straight home. Like, she passed out in the wheelchair, and we went to the ER there at MD Anderson.
Dang.
And we spent the night in the ER. She started feeling a little bit better in the morning, and we were driving home, and she looks at me and she says, what was it like when, and we were driving home like in silence, like just neither one of us knew what to say.
Yeah.
This really is a good story.
It is, man. It's a very good story.
But she looked at me and she said, what was it like when God spoke to you?
Yeah.
And I just thought that was the weirdest thing that, first thing out of her mouth. Like, I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, I mean, I know our story, and God spoke to you and told you to start a meat company. What was that like? But what was that like?
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know this more than anyone. I mean, it wasn't like an audible sound, but it was just, I knew it was God. And I was like, why? And she started crying. She said, because I really believed that 2 weeks ago, God told me my cancer was dead. And to hear the results, that it's not, and that it's thriving.
Yeah.
And I said, babe, if God said it's dead, then we're going to believe that it's dead.
Yeah.
But then she looks at me and says, I'm not taking the chemo. And I'm like, okay, well, where's your faith?
Yeah.
She had the faith.
Yeah. Were you kind of going, were you on board with that? Or were you like, I don't know, honey?
No, not at first.
Yeah.
And came home, and her mom and her sister was there, and same conversation. And they actually kind of got mad at her,
Yeah.
I'm going to get to the good part so I can stop crying. And when you go through this, like, it's one of those things you don't, all you can do is support them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, you can't make them do one thing or the other. So
Yeah. Man, what faith from her though, to say, I just got this prescription, I'm told to take it, everything's looking bad. It's the one thing that should be helping, but I heard God's voice.
Yeah.
And for her to follow that versus traditional medicine, anything that we can throw at it, I mean, that shows her faith. And man, it's incredible. But I could see, people like, hey, honey, you should probably listen to the doctors here. But
yeah. And I think a part of me felt, and I'm actually kind of just having this revelation or realization, the same way that when I said, hey, God told me to start a meat company, and she said, I trust you.
Yeah.
I had that same kind of moment of, if God told you, then
let's do it.
Yeah. Then I trust you. And I said, okay, if you're not going to take them, you're not going to take them. And yeah, I'll just leave that there. So, about 3 or 4 days later, she's getting out of bed. About a week later, she's walking around.
Dang.
And just starts progressively getting better and better. And even that, like I said, everything was so inflamed, you could see it, like we could physically see it shrinking. And so, she called MD Anderson to do a rescan before surgery. And they said, we don't need to do a rescan. We've seen everything we need. We don't want to expose you to more radiation. Listen, this is what the chemo is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is good news. The chemo's working. We didn't tell them that she wasn't taking it because they don't like it when you don't do what they say.
Yeah. I always say, radiation, it's fine for you, but then they're hiding behind a corner, Yeah.
And so, I think about 2 weeks went by and I mean, she was almost completely back to normal. Like, and so she called them again and demanded a rescan. They said, listen, we're not going to rescan, but I'll tell you what, come in, we'll do ultrasound. And if we think it's necessary if we think that we should do a rescan, then we will. So brought her in, did the ultrasound, and they immediately went, we need to do a rescan. And so they did the rescan and they said, hey, this is great. Everything's shrunken by more than 50%. We can get you in for surgery like right away.
Yeah. They still wanted surgery.
Oh yeah. They had to do the surgery to remove the tumor.
Okay.
But they said, don't get your hopes up too much. This is what the chemo is supposed to do. It's good news. We can get in there and do the surgery. I don't know, 3 or 4 days later, went in, did the surgery, removed everything. And then, then it's that like waiting for the biopsy of, what was it? And the biopsy, we got the call, and Corley likes to say, that she didn't need to hear, she knew, knew. I didn't, I was on pins and needles. But, the biopsy came back. And like good results would be 90% dead, 95% would be great.
Yeah.
The original tumor that they found was 100% dead.
Gosh.
There was no living cancer cells. And everything else that they said was cancer that was spreading, there was no cancer.
Golly.
And the emotion is my gratefulness.
Yeah.
Oh, God is good.
Amen, man. Golly. I mean, what did that do for her? Were you did you have a deep faith before this?
Yeah.
Or did this really, after you truly see, it really is a miracle.
I thought I did.
Yeah.
But I think I would answer that question. No, I didn't, even though I thought I did. But we grow in our faith.
Yeah.
And this was absolutely a faith grower, for our family, for me, for Corley. And so that was almost 2 years ago. That was, and you guys, y'all saw her just a few minutes ago. I mean, she's healthier now than she's literally ever been. And she goes back every 3 months for scans, and there's not a trace.
God, praise the Lord, man.
So told you it was a good story.
That's so good.
Thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry.
No, nothing to apologize for. My goodness. My dad's kind of on the same trajectory there, where he goes back periodically to scan and whatnot. But what was it like in the home when you came home and no cancer? What was it like with your kids, with your family?
Rejoicing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just rejoicing. And, it's funny because, we talked about blurry creatures.
Yeah. Shout out to blurry creatures.
Yeah. And, Luke and some other friends of ours that live in the Nashville area, I shared, with, how sick she was, you know, and because we actually had an event. We sponsor IndyCar through Good Ranchers and the Indy 500. Yeah, and we had invited a handful of our friends. You know Nick Freitas?
Nick Freitas? I don't think so.
Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But they all prepared their spouses, the guys that knew me. Hey, listen, when you see Corley, she's probably going to be really sick. So like they're going through this because they knew what we were going through. Yeah. They told us this story later, but was like, we were expecting to see this really sick, feeble, woman, and like she's just bouncing around and walking around, and like we were like so confused. Like, wait, I thought she was sick? Yeah. But yeah, that like I said, that was it was just rejoicing afterwards because.
And your older kids probably understood what was going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and so they.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, mommy's back, and looking, it was, the worst of it was probably 6 or 7 weeks, straight.
But how quickly life can change in that short amount of time.
Yeah, it felt like an eternity, and sure. In hindsight, it was just such a blip. But yeah, so the surgery was in May or either mid-May or early June. I can't remember, of 24. So we're coming up on it's been a year and a half, a little over a year and a half now. And like I said, I mean, she's healthier now than she ever has. And every single scan we come back for, we just had one the last 2 weeks ago, and again, crystal clear.
When God speaks, God speaks. Yeah. Like, that is crazy. That literally is a miracle. I mean,
absolutely.
So what did that do to her faith, and how did that actually?
Now, I mean, it just soared, skyrocketed, and again, we never really see the plan in front of us, but you look back and can connect the dots. Yeah. And I used to. Some of the counsel I even got, with quote unquote leaving ministry and starting a business. The reality is, if you're a Christ follower, if you profess Jesus, then you're called to ministry. And we have a little bit of this, and I can say from someone who was full-time ministry and is now full-time, I'll call it workplace ministry. Yeah. Because we get to, Good Ranchers has given us a platform, and to share the goodness of God in a way that we would never, beyond the walls of the church, just the local church that I served, and we get to share stories of God's faithfulness, whether it's through, the business of Good Ranchers, but also now through Corley's health journey and her healing, and like I said, looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, God, this was your plan. Yeah. You had a plan for us, and it's a whole lot more than just selling meat.
That's so cool. So do you guys has it opened up a ministry with people that are maybe in a cancer battle themselves?
Oh yeah. Corley is constantly encouraging, talking to, and she tells her story. I don't know if you know Dr. Pompa podcast.
I don't think
they're shaking their head. They know.
You guys know? I need to get on that.
Yeah, she just went on his podcast a few weeks ago, and even opened it up to his whole audience, and he has a very large following, and said, hey, if anybody, Corley said, if anybody has any questions, or if anybody wants me to pray, here's my email address.
That's so amazing.
And because again, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, and the word of our testimony. Like, and
I love that.
So many times we just pass over that scripture, but the power of our testimony is, the blood of the Lamb, the blood of Jesus, and the word of our testimony.
That's amazing.
Our words have life. Our words have healing, and we share that testimony because God can do it. God did it for Corley, and God can do it for you.
Yeah. Amen. Man, that's so cool. I'd love to also just kind of follow up as we're landing the plane here, but so what did that do with you, the way you approach business after what the Lord had done to Corley? I mean, did you just feel like, man, the Lord, commissioned us to start this business, and then he totally, provided a miracle in your own family? Did that do anything differently with the way you approach business, or were you guys just kind of still?
I mean, we always approach business. I only know what I know, and what I knew is following the Lord. And I have some. I have a business mentor that I found in 2019, and he's not a believer.
Yeah.
He's an amazing businessman. But him and I kind of go round and round all the time because he can't wrap his head around like my faith. But he also can't deny what we've done. Yeah. And so much of what we've done and how we've grown. So we're the fastest growing online meat company in the US. How
many employees do you guys have?
We have about 70 here in the office, but we have 5 fulfillment centers that are run on contractors. Okay. All of our shipping and fulfillment. Yeah. We third party that out, and it's like the fulfillment center that the fulfillment, the 3PL that we use. Yeah. We're their largest customer, and so we have, there's hundreds of people employed, on that side. And then not to mention the farms, the ranches, the manufacturing side of it, it's
crazy. I do have a question. Early on in the process, how'd you get into like making connections with farmers and ranchers? And was that just like was it the pipeline that you had built out? How did that?
Yeah. I lived on the road for quite a while. And just traveling, figuring it out, talking and just connecting, all the different pieces. But I can't say this enough. God just opened up so many doors, and I don't want to make it sound like, that, I just sat back and God just did it all, but it is almost kind of that way. It's never been easy, but it was also never hard. Yeah. Like the right things, the right doors would open, the wrong doors would close. And we used to use that. We say that, I say it here, even to our staff, who's not all believers, but I say it all the time. God goes before us and he prepares the way. Yeah. And man, I was, just last week, we talk about Jonah a lot, and we have a community group that we meet with on Wednesday nights. And our first group that we met in January of this year, we started talking about, how do you know if you're in God's will? Like, what exactly does that mean? Yeah. And I have a good friend of mine who just made a business decision a few years ago, and was telling me, and he's a strong believer, and he said, man, it's just not working out. And but I really felt like, that's what I was supposed to do. Yeah. But here I am a few years later, and it's just not working out. And it's really, I'm really struggling dealing with God, I thought you told me to do this, but it's not working out. And all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. All things. Like, not some, not most. Yeah. All things, right? And I went back and I read the story of Jonah last week or the week before. And a bunch of things just like really jumped out at me, because I always thought that Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh because he was afraid for his life.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. And he says it as plain. He says it. He actually didn't want to go to Nineveh because he did not want them to repent. They were an enemy. They were Assyrian.
Yeah.
And
I don't want them to be believed. I don't want them to know you.
He didn't want them to have the mercy of God. And so in his, a couple of amazing things happened. Because Jonah was a prophet, he definitely was, did a lot of great things.
Yeah.
And, his trying to flee the call of the Lord. I mean, y'all know the story.
Yep.
Boat, the storm, and gets thrown into the belly of a whale, or, gets swallowed by a whale, gets spat out on dry land. The way that God used that was even more to work in his good than he realized, because it was the whale. There's some speculation here, but the Assyrians worshipped many different gods, and several of the gods that they worshipped, one of them was a man who came out of a fish.
Interesting.
Look it up for yourself.
Dang.
One of the gods, and that man coming out of a fish would deliver, like what they're supposed to do.
They're like,
and it.
This is spoken. This is a prophecy.
The whale didn't spit him out in the water.
Yeah.
It says he spit him out on dry land, where there was probably a shore.
Yeah.
Probably people.
See it.
And so Jonah's path was prepared.
Wow.
So the reason he was able to walk in and they repented and listened to him is because
it was written in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Golly, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Read it for yourself. Look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man, so I just want to thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. It truly is incredible. We're incredibly impressed with Good Ranchers and all you guys are doing. And so, man, tell folks where they can find you guys, how they can get some meat and all that stuff.
Yeah, goodranchers.com.
There we go. All right.
goodranchers.com, yeah.
And
thank you.
Yeah, man, let's do it again. That was awesome.
For sure.
All right. And guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of No Longer Nomads. We'll see you next Tuesday. We release episodes every Tuesday at 5 a.m. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, give us a like. That helps out a ton. Or if you listen to the audio, give us a review. And a 5-star review helps out a ton. It is free, and it helps us a ton to reach other people. And thank you so much. We'll see you next week.